Want to watch me turn something like this into something like this? Fancy sticking around for some frugal chat about the kitchen whilst you're on? Join me for day one of my 100-day project where I turn 100 pieces of trash into 100 plus pieces of treasure. It's easy, it's fun, and you get to use just what's lying around. Let's get started. Hello everyone, it's Helen from Journaling Planet, and today is the first day in my 100-day project, and I'm going to be turning a piece of trash into treasure for the 100 videos, the 100 days that I'm going to do this project for. And the first thing I'm going to play around with is this quiche container. And I'm going to use all of the four sides. I've just chopped the ends off because they were raggedy. But I'm going to use the four remaining sides. And my idea is to make two little belly bands with these end pieces, and a journaling card with this piece, and a specimen card with this piece. Okay, so we'll see how I get on. As I'm collaging the journaling card, I am going to talk through some frugal tips, because frugality is a huge, I think junk journaling does attract frugal people. But before I get into any of that, let's get started with the actual creative project. So this is my first cut of the 100 days trash to treasure project. I feel like I'm opening a supermarket. It was a good first cut. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with some brown paper. So the idea is that this will be the side that is written on, and this other side will be the side that I do some collage on. So because at some point I am going to write a book with a photographer friend of mine about Paris, I want to create a Paris themed journaling card, and this will come up more than once, I'm sure, in my videos as I prepare various journals that I want to take with me on that trip. My husband is quite sick, so I don't know when we'll be able to make the trip, but I am going to be prepared with my journals when we can. I know you'll ask me where I got this paper. I don't know. This is part of the reason that frugality has become such an important part of my life. When I did my big craft room organisation, I found this in a drawer and I loved it, but I couldn't even remember buying it. That's how incredibly unconscious I'd got with my craft spending at one point. This was in my heyday when I earned a living from a regular wage. I am now a full-time author, so what I sell on my books is what I got to spend. And that's got to stretch across my mortgage, my bills, looking after my fur baby, looking after my husband, all those things. And some craft supplies. So you may have noticed there are not many rich authors in the world, and I am one of them, but I have enough because I'm frugal. And one of the reasons I decided to become frugal was this distressing discovery when I did my craft room organisation that some things I could not even remember buying. I loved them, but I could not even remember buying them. So this is going to be my piece of background paper. As I'm creating some ephemera out of a piece of food packaging, I thought I would talk about my frugal tips for the kitchen, or cooking, I should say. And if you have anything to add to what I say, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Just a little bit of frugal chat whilst I'm doing this collage. I generally have some key things that I do each week that help me stay frugal on the food front and on the cooking front. The first one is that at the end of each week, I batch cook a whole bunch of things, but I particularly batch cook soups. Now, I have a vegetarian husband, so there's not a lot of meat flying around the house, but there are always vegetables left in the salad box in the fridge that we've not got around to eating. Probably because we've prioritised eating junk food that we bought as a treat rather than getting around to the vegetables. So to compensate for this, I batch cook soup, And did you know you can even put salad in a soup? You can put cucumber in a soup. You know, I've done it and it tastes pretty good. And for me, you know, it's just a matter of, well, I've got a hand blender, so I blend it all in that way. And I just make sure that I have chopped it very finely, blend it all up. If you've got a potato and an onion, you have the basis for a soup. That's pretty much the basis for any soup. And then I just add in leftover kale. I add in cucumber. I add in anything that's left. Maybe a green pepper. The only thing with a salad soup is you mustn't add in anything red like tomatoes, because you'll end up with a really disturbing pink soup, which nobody wants. So that's frugal tip number 1, is batch cooking soup. And making sure that you're using everything that's left in the bottom of your salad box every week, so none of it goes to waste. And that usually means that we've got something for lunch the whole of the following week. Okay, so I'm wanting something Parisian themed, and I have fussy cut out of a book recently some Parisian themed embellishments. It was a book that I got for Christmas, and I will try and remember to link to it below. I don't want to cover all of this lovely background, but I think it's absolutely fine to cover that much of it. What I'm just going to do is ink around. And I want to put a couple of other things in there, but I'll need to check first that they fit. So just bear with me while I do a little bit of shuffling around. Okay, I'm happy with those things as my 3 key embellishments. Of course, I've forgotten, haven't I, to bring my fabric glue down to do the video. So I'm just going to hold it in place with some stick glue for now, just for demonstration purposes. And then later I will make sure that I secure it up. Okay, as sturdy as that seems, I know it won't last forever, so at some point I will prise it up, or if it falls off I'll re-glue it with the hot glue and or some fabric glue. So that's the basis, but obviously this is me. I'm not going to be able to leave it there. I'm going to need to put a few stamps here and there to kind of give it an extra bit of texture. And that's pretty much the finished result. What I really enjoy doing with this particular piece is that perhaps you can see up close, if I bring it quite up close, that there's sort of some blotches across some of the images and across some of the background. And it is just one of these very abstract blotch stamps that came in a pack. So if you ever see something like that that looks kind of like an ink splash, it is worth getting, because it does help give it a slightly more distressed look and feel. I'm really satisfied with how that's come out. And again, if anybody looked at this, do you think they would know that it came from a piece of food packaging? I doubt it very much. I'm just going to trim off some of the edges and then we'll get started on the next piece of work. Okay, next up is the 2 ends of the box, which I'd like to make some belly bands out of. Just a little consideration when you're working with things like this, the back of this was quite rough from where I tore open the package. So I've just put a piece of washi tape there. It won't be visible when I glue this down to the page at either end, but it will just stop anything that I push into the side snagging against that rough back. So that should work quite nicely. I'm going to do a slightly different motif for these two. I have a little bit of this wallpaper left over from a sample I got, and I'd really like to use some more of it up because it's nearly at the end anyway. And so I'm going to start with this as the background. Okay, and in terms of embellishments, I was thinking this cool tiger, which I cut out of a children's dictionary, so that's a piece of reclaimed material, and this really beautiful embellishment from a Stamperia set. I forget exactly which one. I think it might be the alchemy set. I think they call it something like that, but it's very beautiful in a way. I think they just go really beautifully. So I'm just going to glue those down, and whilst I glue them down, I'm going to give you a second frugal tip with food, and that is if you can see sort of potatoes or carrots or broccoli or those kind of things in your fridge that are about to go off, chop them up. Well, in the case of potatoes, you need to parboil them, but parboil your potatoes, peel them, parboil them, chop them up and freeze them. And you can just put them into the oven for roasting at a later date. And with things like carrots and broccoli, you don't need to do anything to them. You can just put them into a bag in the freezer and they are just frozen vegetables. A lot of people just let their fresh vegetables go off because they don't think to freeze them. This is something that I found so helpful. It just makes the vegetables last so long. I don't know about where you are, but in the UK, if you buy a bag of carrots, it's enough carrots to feed a family of 12 for like the next generation. So the odds of you actually getting through them all before the use by date is slim. We just want him to sit a little bit more like that. So freezing vegetables or potatoes that are about to go off so that you can use them for a later date. That's the second frugal tip. And I've now made 2 lovely belly bands. So easy. And again, the food packaging, I just don't think you would know, would you, if you were looking through a junk journal? They would be glued down at this end, and something would be pushed behind it. And I just don't think you'd look at it and go, oh, that was once a piece of food packaging. I think they're just really beautifully rendered. And it was just sticking down 2 pieces of paper. Nothing more complicated than that. The last piece is a bit more complicated, and that is making a specimen card. So I'm just going to get my hole punch because I will need to cut a circle into whatever paper I'm going to use to cover this with my punch. Okay, just need to eyeball it to make sure that it's high enough and to the left enough when I press this out. If I make a mistake, if it's not, so for example, the punch didn't go far enough to cover this strip here, I can fix that, it's no problem. I can put something underneath it and it'll just look like a bit of extra texture. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get this glued down so that it's immediately covered. I really like how that came out. I'm just going to ink around, and while I do, I'm going to give you another frugal tip for your cooking. As much as you can, only visit the supermarket once per week. Some people manage to go the whole month. And only go to the supermarket once, which I don't know how they're doing that because we need fresh salad and things, so I don't know what's going on there, but it's impressive. Whatever they're doing, it's impressive. But at the most once a week to the supermarket. It's not just because you'll save yourself lots of temptation for things you could buy whilst you're in there all those extra times a week. It's also saving on the fuel cost or the transport cost of getting there and back. And until I learned about frugal living, this did not cross my mind. But as soon as it became apparent to me that this did make a difference to my savings and to my general money management, I started doing it. Now, there's a little bit of an irony going on in this video, which perhaps only people in the UK will notice. This particular piece of food packaging is from a company called Marks and Spencer, which is probably deemed one of the most expensive food brands in the whole of the UK. And the reason that we have this packaging in here is that very occasionally, because we're frugal with everything else, we do allow ourselves a few items from Marks and Spencer's as a special treat. So those of you thinking, I can't believe she's talking about being frugal and only going to the supermarket once a week when she's got a Marks and Spencer's packet in her hand, this is a very special treat and is still much cheaper than eating out. So it's sort of a special treat for us that we do instead of eating out. Okay, just in case anyone was wondering, which they probably weren't. Okay, I think that's inked up enough. I will do more decoration on this in a while, but I just want to get this window sorted. I want to put something in this window. Okay, I got slightly carried away with that and ended up stamping loads of things on it. And tearing up some washi tape to put on it. Again, there's a little bit of space to write on the back there. I just don't think you would know that was a piece of food packaging. So this is officially my haul today for Trash to Treasure in terms of what I've made. I've made my lovely specimen card. 2 very straightforward belly bands. And this lovely piece of Parisian ephemera, which I couldn't resist just sewing it a quick border around. I also put a little bit of washi tape, just little torn pieces in the corner. I'm not really capable of leaving a project once I say it's done. I just still have to add something else. So I managed to get all this out of one piece of packaging. Look around your kitchen today and see what you could use, what you could upcycle for your junk journal. And before I say goodbye, I will just leave you with one more frugal tip for the kitchen or for cooking. And that is to save all of your jars and sturdy plastic containers. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of food, dry food, particularly like pasta, comes in kind of really flimsy plastic. And before you know it, it's all over your cupboard. And there's going to be some food casualties, people. And I don't like food casualties. I don't like to see wasted food. So with that in mind, save all of your jars, save all of your plastic containers. And then when you buy your pasta, pour them into there, secure the top, and it's safely in the cupboard. And you will get to use every single last piece of that pasta, every single last black bean, every single last lentil. And nothing will be wasted. And if there's anything I think that kind of encapsulates the spirit of junk journaling, it's about not wasting things, not just letting them go to landfill. So I hope you've enjoyed these frugal tips. It is an obsession of mine. I won't do it absolutely every video, but I thought you might enjoy it just for today. And maybe it'll think about your habits in the kitchen area and what you could do. If you've got any top tips for cooking frugally or for kitchen frugal tips, then please put them in the comments and do let me know what you think of the ephemera that I've made today. I'm pretty excited and I think this has been a very successful first day on the 100-day project. I'll see you next time.